I think we are maybe 6 months away from a real starting in a bull run. I don't think a bull run begins until the previous all-time high is broken. And what people forget to do is they'll say that we broke the previous all-time high, and it's true. But in reality, we have not broken the previous all-time high until 79,000, which is the inflation adjusted high. So I think we're waiting for that. I tweeted this months ago, and I said real party starts after 79,000 because that's what we're waiting for here. We're waiting for the 79,000 ceiling to be broken. It is the inflation adjusted high, and then things can start going where they're meant to.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we have a guest who needs no introduction. My friend, British HODL. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for having me back. And hopefully I didn't offend your crypto audience too much, so you've invited me back. So let's try and get that accomplished today then, actually.
Yeah, no, not at all. Everyone is actually really pleased to see you on the channel. So thank you for coming back. It's really appreciated. Where do you think we are now in the cycle with Bitcoin?
You know, so many things have happened this year. And what I think what people really are confused with is the fact that so many things have happened, but price hasn't started moving beyond their expectations. And from my perspective, you know, I'm new to the cycle, but I also come from traditional assets. What we're seeing this year is absolutely remarkable. I mean, we've got an ETF approved, right? We've got the presidents of the single, a potential president of the single most powerful capital market in the entire world, talking about he's pro Bitcoin, wants to make sure that America is pro Bitcoin, and he wants all the future Bitcoin made in America, or whatever he said. Right? This is unbelievably remarkable. And so for people to sit there and go, I'm kind of bored, it doesn't track for me, right? I think we are maybe 6 months away from a real starting in a bull run. I don't think a bull run begins until the previous all-time high is broken. And what people forget to do is they'll say that we broke the previous all-time high, and it's true. But in reality, we have not broken the previous all-time high until 79,000, which is the inflation adjusted high. So I think we're waiting for that. I tweeted this months ago, and I said real party starts after 79,000 because that's what we're waiting for here. We're waiting for the 79,000 ceiling to be broken. It is the inflation adjusted high, and then things can start going where they're meant to. But I think we're about 6 months away. We're experiencing halving doldrums right now, and that's all part of the process.
And it takes some time. If you look back into the data, we've seen probably we can repeat or rhyme to the history. And for the first time, we have ETFs. Yeah, I agree. First time we've gone through the all-time high before the halving never happened before. Crypto election is coming in November. I think it's November 5th in the US, where it's clear now that people have a choice in between a pro-crypto president and a president who doesn't actually candidate doesn't like crypto. And even though they might won't do anything because they are fishing for votes, who cares? The market will react.
President Trump, just looking at his personality and his history, always picks these one or two metrics, right, to judge his presidency by throughout the presidency. So if anyone thinks that President Trump has come so far out on the bullish side on Bitcoin, is not going to use the Bitcoin price to pump the effectiveness of his presidency, you just don't understand how marketing works, right? I can envision President Trump talking about the success of his presidency because Bitcoin has gone from 100,000 to 130,000 in a week, right? I can already see the presidential pumps that we're going to have as a result of President Trump hopefully being, reelected and starting to talk about Bitcoin, which ultimately drives more attention to the asset. Because if the president is on the world stage talking about Bitcoin going from 100,000 to 130,000, suddenly, even if you weren't thinking about Bitcoin, you start thinking about Bitcoin, right? So price drives human action when it comes to assets. So I think, we are 6 months away from driving that human action that we know is coming.
There's also seasonality in Bitcoin. I was talking to a friend the other night and I said, hey, don't forget, September is the worst month, but June is the second worst, statistically speaking, right? So it is okay to see a bad moment coming in. And we have the most beautiful part. We have November, October, those months of Pumptober, Moonvember, as we call them.
The election point is really great, right? So not only do we have an election in the US, we have an election in the United Kingdom, we have an election now in France, we have an election. Well, the Belgian PM already resigned, so they're going to have to figure out something. Europe is standing on twigs right now, right? When it comes to what's going on politically inside of Europe, Germany, Olaf has got pressure to resign. You've got all the entire spectrum of political ground in the West could change within the next 6 months, right? This is absolutely huge. This is a 20-year cycle that has been going on in Europe. And what happens if suddenly it just changes to, pro-right, pro-capitalism, pro-free markets, pro-everything, and now we're on a 20-year trend in Europe of that? That would be absolutely remarkable.
We've seen, of course, BlackRock now is the largest, right? So they went off GBTC. GBTC has been bleeding forever. Do you think they are going to stop selling, or do you foresee another little bit of a dump in their hands?
Well, GBTC has been selling. I think what will happen with GBTC now is that you'll experience periods of selling, and then it will flatline, and then periods of selling and then flatline. And the reason for that is there's going to be certain holding periods that people have with their GBTC position to avoid taxation on the selling. And as those periods come to maturity, they'll then sell their position. So I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a stability and then a period of dumping, stability and then period of dumping. But it's not going to be ridiculous like what was happening at the beginning of the ETF launch. I think that part's done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was looking briefly into the data, and they started off January 10, which was one day before prior to the ETF launch. GBTC had over 660,000 Bitcoin. Now they sold basically over half.
Of course they did. Everyone could see that. The second they announced that their fee was going to be 1.5%, everyone knew what was going to happen, right? And I think that, as I've put many times out there, I think Grayscale's best option at this point is an acquisition for GBTC, which would allow the investors to make a little bit of money and get out of the game. And I think BlackRock will be the one that acquires them. What's quite fascinating is during this entire dumping period that we've had in the market, the IBIT fund is the only one that's had no outflows, right? People are not really paying attention to that. So if I was to chart what type of investor is using which ETF product, you would say that the BlackRock product was more than likely to be the most sophisticated investors, right? The people that are retail that hate BlackRock because of this, that, and the other, whatever childish reasons that they have. And again, not childish. Some BlackRock's done some terrible things, but they're probably going to be using someone else, right? Institutions and high net worth individuals are probably going to be using BlackRock. And it's quite interesting to see that even with all this selling that's going on, even with all this price dumps going on, the BlackRock fund has not seen any outflows, even while Fidelity has seen outflows.
I actually had Matt Hogan on my podcast, CIO of Bitwise, and they actually have a Bitcoin address, which I love, by the way. It's the only one so far they've done a move like that, where they said, hey, you know what? Don't trust, verify. Here's the address. You can see all the funds. And what happened, I don't know if you've seen in the news, people have started to send Bitcoin to the address. So it was kind of the only one over collateralized, funny enough.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a great team as well, like the amount. It's remarkable how such a small fund has managed to gain all this attention, all this notoriety, and all of these funds for their Bitcoin product. I was actually thinking that we would have seen 2 or 3 of these ETFs fold by now, and so, they haven't done that. So yeah, all power to everyone. I think the more products there are out there for Bitcoin, the better it is.
I don't think we will see so many for so long. At some point, 2 or 3, maybe 4, they're going to take the majority of the shareholder. I mean, would you agree that there is plenty out there, which is nice because they are propagating the message?
Yeah, I think there'll be less than 5 by the time the next halving comes around.
And I don't know if you've seen Pompliano was on CNBC the other day, and he said 80% of money coming into the ETF are retail. And that was like, kind of took me, I don't want to say off guard, but I would have imagined the number would have been smaller, because I would have imagined institutions would have been, and maybe by retail is classifying small companies.
You don't know how they're classifying retail in that study. Retail could be somebody who's worth over $100 million and still managing their own funds, right? It doesn't mean institutions as in, BlackRock, if your BlackRock advisor calls you and says, hey, we're going to put you into this fund, or you should buy this fund, and you go and do it. Is that retail? Is that institutional? I don't know the answer yet. But what I will tell you is, for sure, institutional capital is not coming in the same way that everyone thinks it is, because we can see that in price. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin, and any asset really that has a finite scarcity, a finite supply, is that all of the truth can be seen in price action. And so if the price isn't going up the way that we think is going up, or that it should be going up, then it's not happening, right? And so right now, what's not happening? What's not happening is corporations are not putting their money into Bitcoin at this point, right? They're stepping into it. They might start buying little chunks here and there, 20, 30, $40 million, whatever it is. But institutions are not at this point going and dumping money into Bitcoin, because if they were, not only would we have heard about it, we would have seen it in price action. When we say retail, I'd like to see how they define retail. I don't know the answer to that question. But I think we're at a remarkable place here with what's going on, regardless of whether institutions are getting in or not. Again, you got to remember, an ETF is a public product, so anyone can use it. The fact that that much retail is actually doing it is remarkable, right? You got to look at it the positive way. Like, it makes me wonder, what are they selling out of to allocate that much into Bitcoin, right? That's the interesting part, because it's clearly not Nvidia, right? Because Nvidia keeps going up. If it's not Nvidia, and it's like, what are they selling? Like, what is going down, or where are the profits coming from in order to reallocate into these Bitcoin products for retail? And that should tell us a lot as to how the retail market feels. And if I had to hazard a guess, I would say that the retail market is completely and utterly fed up of the doom and gloom boomer narratives, and is looking for higher risk returns.
I'm with you on that one. I was reading about maybe gold got a hit a little bit, but it's not going to be the only asset. I mean, more of a younger generation, or maybe kind of trying to invest into the asset. And again, the ETF, some people are hating it. I actually love it. It's a new way for people to enter the market. So I'm actually positive and welcoming the ETF. I think it's a fantastic product.
Yeah, there's this guy in Florida. I was just reading in the newspaper, well, online, but there was a report of a guy in Florida who got arrested and put into jail because he was planning a tax on Bitcoin holders to torture them to steal their Bitcoin. That doesn't happen with an ETF, okay? Also, that's why I don't have any Bitcoin on me. I don't have any physical possession of any Bitcoin whatsoever. Majority of my holding is in the ETF, and anything that's not is protected with, CASA's, 3 out of 5 multi-sig, of which all of those 3 keys are in 3 different countries. So it's like, I'd have to fly to 3 different countries just to be able to move any of that Bitcoin. And I don't carry any keys or anything like that on me, because I don't see the point of it. So yeah, institutional investors are going to come in, smarter investors are going to come in, sophisticated investors are going to come in, and the ETF is the best solution for them, especially if they're, a lot of the people that promote self-custody, yes, they have a very, very important point, that self-custody is important. But I think self-custody is going to turn into, this sort of run bag approach, right? Like, it's like, I'm going to have a certain percentage in self-custody, and the rest of it, I'm going to have it in the ETF. I'm going to use options when they come out on the ETF. I'm going to generate my income. As the price of Bitcoins goes up, I need to take less risk to generate the same amount of income, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's going to be the way that this pans out.
Super well said. I was talking to Gary Cardone on my podcast a couple of days ago, and he said, people used to lose Bitcoin when Bitcoin was worth a couple of dollars. Now, nobody's losing Bitcoin. I mean, or at least a percentage of people paying attention, right? Because now it's $60,000. So you want to be careful. Same, by the way, I don't have any Bitcoin quote on me physically, because that's going to make you a target. And this thing is going to go higher and higher. So you want to have a strategy in which is going to protect your custody, but at the same time, you want a multi-sig reality. Otherwise, anyone can come, the $2 wrench attack, as they say, and put it into a car and say, if you don't give me your Bitcoin, I'm going to smash your brain on the wall.
I don't even carry debit cards with me, right? Any spending I do is done on credit cards, just in case there's an issue, especially when you travel as much as I do. Like, you just never know which country you're going to get an issue in. So I always use credit cards. Obviously, I don't carry debt on them. I pay them off, but the strategy of using a credit card versus a debit card is important, because how many times do you hear about people traveling and getting robbed and this, that, and the other, and then especially if somebody has Bitcoin, and obviously I've made myself even more visible by being on YouTube, so I have to take extra precautions. But yeah, it's something that you have to think about, and the ETF solves all of these problems and then takes away one feature, which is the self custody.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's also a barrier for even if you are in a perfect place, like for example Dubai, super safe. You can be more quote relaxed on certain things.
But, as you know, I've been here for a bit to sort out paperwork and things like that, with the view to moving here more permanently next year. Remarkable every time I come here, how many days it takes me, a few days to acknowledge and accept how safe it is, right? And it is truly remarkable. However, even in Dubai, you need to be careful, especially if you have Bitcoin.
100%. Things are happening in Dubai as well, right? So maybe in a smaller percentage, but still, it's still a risk. And you are, at the end of the day, if you have, Bitcoin in your own hands, then you are the weak link of the chain, because they can take you and abuse about the fact that they want to know how to get them. And then once they take them, well, good luck in calling the police and say, well, they stole all my Bitcoins. They're going to probably laugh at you. They're really happy that the ETF comes in. And if someone wants to go deeper, they can decide at some point later on to get custody of the asset that comes with a risk, right? So I agree with you. I think it's a fantastic product, and it's going to help propagation of this beautiful asset through time. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
You know what's quite amazing is when you think about it, right? Everyone says, "Oh, but self custody works because of all these third world countries where things are terrible and you can get over the border and this, that, and the other bull," right? I'll tell you one thing for sure. Someone that has money in, let's say, Venezuela, right, or Colombia, or any of these places where there is violence, trust me, having your wealth stored in an American ETF is better than any amount of self custody, right? Because if you need to make a run for it and someone catches you at the border, they can take your self custody Bitcoin from you, right? Or let's say, the government says, right, you can't leave with any capital whatsoever. And then you have your little 12 words that you're going to put, on a stick somewhere, and stick it up your backside or whatever to try and get out. Even airport security can see that, right? Airport security can stop you. Having your property protected, if you are in one of those situations, in an American ETF, will guarantee you property rights based on the legal structures of the American ETFs. That is actually, I mean, I'm not saying it's a better option, but it is certainly thought about when you're in those countries. And most of the people saying these stupid things are living in America and projecting onto the foreign world. And I'll guarantee you something, that the people that actually live in those countries would much prefer a broker account in America that they've wired money into, and they now own an American ETF, and they can feel free in their country to do whatever they're doing because that product is safe.
There is a risk, like you said, in both options. For example, if you buy an ETF into BlackRock, and BlackRock at some point decides to do something with the asset itself, or you won't have access to it, or if the government wants to take it off you, they maybe have a more leverage. If there is a custodian in between, they can do whatever they want with it. I would look at banks. BlackRock is not like a startup, the Cayman
It's not a
Island.
startup based in the Bahamas run by a chemical addict,
Yeah.
teenager that's running around in shorts. This is BlackRock. You're talking about people that are fundamentally serving and changing the foundation of countries around the world, that they are held to a slightly higher degree of, reportability, based on whose capital they protect, right? Whereas FTX, even though it was billions and billions of dollars, and I feel sorry for everyone who was involved, it's a tiny outpost compared to BlackRock.
I agree. And they how many ETS products they have? I mean, this is not the
Right.
only one they have. And if you look into history, I mean, as long as they don't make it illegal to self-custody, I will have a problem with, right? Because I want to have the option to choose. As long as there is an option, because I will always have my way to self-custody, and like we are discussing with multi-sigs and everything, because I think it works for me. There's been an email flying a few months ago from Kraken to all the UK residents, people saying, hey, we want to know if you have a Trezor or Ledger. We want to know the address, and we want to know if you do indeed self-custody your Bitcoin.
The UK is increasingly becoming disappointing on all fronts. not just the Bitcoin front. The UK has many, many issues, and you can see what's going on in the UK. Name a UK billionaire that's not in real estate that's still in the UK. You can't, right? The UK is about to experience, I think they had 3,500 millionaires leave last year, and this year it's about to be 9,500 or something like that. Millionaires just fleeing the United Kingdom. There's a capital drain going on, there's a brain drain going on. And so if you are watching and you are in the United Kingdom, you really need to think about this because what happens, what does a desperate government do? And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for the United Kingdom to pursue some form of citizenship-based taxation, just like the USA has. So, as a British passport holder, right, this concerns me a lot. And so I'm taking steps and actions aggressively based on the election that we have coming up and the polling data of which way this is going to go to protect myself in the eventuality where that may happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think there's a higher and higher likelihood that the United Kingdom starts making stupid decisions when it comes to taxation and other things like that. Certainly, I won't hold my assets in the United Kingdom. I haven't done that for a number of years, but and now also having hedge on citizenship and everything else is also becoming important, especially with the United Kingdom in Europe.
Couldn't agree more with you. I think in 2024 you have the right to choose who treats you best and pack your stuff and go. I mean, I'm like you, moved a lot extensively. I've been in the UK for majority of my life, and when I left 4 years ago was the best decision ever. And when you are away for a little bit and you go back into it, you see things. It would be the same thing in Dubai as well, right? I've been now here for 4 years. If I go for 5 years somewhere and come back, I would actually see things I couldn't see because it was, and I was in shock about the UK. I was reading also they want to make military mandatory, and if you don't go, they'll freeze your bank account. I mean, what?
Well, Look, the UK is full of a bunch of old people, and the one thing that old people are pissed off about is young people. So the Conservative government is using tactics like that to say they want to make national service mandatory for 18-year-olds, and if you don't do it, we can do financial penalties and this other. That to me is political drama. The very real issues with the United Kingdom. Again, I haven't been back in a year. I normally go back once or twice a year, and I hadn't been back in actually a year and a half. And I landed back, and I couldn't believe it. It felt like landing in a country that was in complete stagflation, just continuing to try and exist. No growth, no ambition, no future for young people. Future basically for aristocrats. And then when you look at opportunity and possibilities and things like that, it's tough to set up a business. It's tough to try and get any movement going. You want a good job, you have to leave the country. 2.5 million people walking around the streets of the UK came in within the last 2 or 3 years. 1 out of every 30 people in the United Kingdom, was brought in the last 2.5 years. It's absolutely crazy, right? We've overbloated our systems. We've weighed them down completely. From a private equity perspective, private equity is overinvested in the UK. So there's a lot of issues that the United Kingdom has, and there is no willingness to actually fix anything, right? What they're trying to do is maintain the power that they have, and it's becoming, it's unfortunate for me to say because I love the United Kingdom. All my opportunities came from the UK. The charities I support are UK focused. Like the UK is disappointing at this point. And if there is no willingness for the system to fix itself, then you have to start hedging, because as one individual, you're not going to fix anything. For example, as a British citizen, if I have, and as a British resident, if I have a broker account, I cannot buy a US listed ETF. Can you imagine that? I can't buy a US SEC approved ETF, even though I'm a Brit, right? I'm a British citizen. I cannot buy a financial product listed in the safest, biggest financial markets in the world, right? You know why that is? Because we're still aligned to EU MiFID rules in the UK, even though it's been 8 years since Brexit. So there has been no desire. When a country like Dubai, right, or a country like the UAE, when a country like El Salvador, when a country like Argentina, when a country like Mexico, when a country like all of these countries that I mentioned and more can take 2 or 3 years and immediately turn around their economies, go from the most dangerous place in Latin America to the safest, go from crazy inflation to just marking down no inflation for the first month in Argentina, when the UAE can start from desert sand and build one of the strongest financial hubs and centers and safest places in the world. Bear in mind, the UAE, 90% of all of the people here are not UAE citizens, right? So therefore, it's not a problem of bringing immigration in, right? There's something else going on here. When they can do that and the United Kingdom can't do that, I start thinking there's something sinister going on, because clearly we can do it if we want to, because everyone else has done it, but we don't want to do it. And that's when we start looking at, replacement migration data and stuff like that. And all of this, bringing it back to Bitcoin, it becomes more and more important, because clearly the country that you live in doesn't give a shit about you, right? Any assets that you're into, like I was telling my parents, that when they first immigrated to the United Kingdom, my dad's side of the family, they bought a house and it was £5,000 for this house. Right now, the value of that house is £500,000. And I said, if you think property is going to continue doing well at the same pace that it's done since you moved here, this house would need to be worth £56 million in the next 38 years, right? That's not going to happen. So traditional assets are oversaturated. Immigration is uncontrolled in all of these countries. Safety is going out the window. The immigration has just been an experiment to see if replacement migration can work, and it's about to come to an end in a terrible way. And I hope the next 10 years are smooth sailing. I don't think they're going to be. But in all of these uncertain periods, what you need is an asset like Bitcoin that can allow you to be flexible and allow you mobility with your ideas, with your spirit, and with your family, right? You need to be able to say, okay, if I want to move from the United Kingdom to Dubai, right? All of my wealth overnight is now being effective in the UAE. If you're in real estate, you got to sell all your real estate in the UK, which can take months, if not years. You then got to pay the tax on that, which is 20 or 30%, whatever the rate is that you're paying. Then you got to move it to the UAE, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? This is like a year-long project, right? If you want to actually move and you're in traditional assets. Whereas with Bitcoin, right, you become non-tax resident in the United Kingdom, which is pretty easy. You move over here, you become tax resident here, and all of your wealth follows you in an instant. That's what you need. You need mobility. In times of this level of uncertainty, you need mobility. That's why you need to add Bitcoin to the portfolio if you are not already adding Bitcoin to the portfolio. And you need to secure yourself and your ability to make a decision on what's the best route for your family, yourself, the ideas that you have, the legacy you want to leave, and everything else that's important to you in the world. Because clearly, the one thing that they told you to care about, which is your country, doesn't give a shit about you.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And think about all the fees. Like I remember moving funds from Italy to the UK. Besides the currency, okay, which I get, there is a fee to pay. The fee the bank wanted was insane. With Bitcoin, you can move
Right.
millions of dollars for like nothing. So in Dubai, also you can buy real estate with Dubai. So you could potentially transfer.
Can you still do that? I just heard that the UAE central bank just put a ban on crypto payments. I don't know if you can still do that.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. Maybe something happened lately, but I know there is still, you can buy a bunch of different things. You can buy cars, you can buy properties, you can buy a bunch of things. Banks, they're not as friendly as people think. You will see, you will experience as well.
Yeah, they're
No,
not at all.
banks in general, they don't like the idea because they are the middleman. They are the one who's going to benefit the least of the transactions, right? If we can have a peer-to-peer currency between you and me and cut off the bank, well, they're not going to like it. So they'll try to stop you as much as possible.
Yeah.
But there's not much they can do, to be honest, because there's always a way out. And like you said, look into El Salvador, look into the UAE. So as long as we have places closing doors, there's going to be other places opening doors. So you can just decide
Right.
to pack and go, right?
A lot of people are scared of that. And, my parents are in this position where they've built their entire life in the UK, right? So it's like, do we go and rebuild everything somewhere else? And the beautiful thing about the internet, the beautiful thing about, being where the world is getting smaller, is that you can build friendships before you ever get to a place, right? And you can have your community set before you even get to a place. You just got to put the effort in and have the balls to do it. And most people don't have that part.
I always say when people ask me what's the best thing you've done besides marrying my wife is leaving Italy, packing and go. Because you only grow if you leave your comfort zone, right? By leaving your comfort zone, you will grow as an individual, not necessarily just economically speaking, but everything, learning another language, seeing other people, viewing other things is going to open up your mind extensively. You just have to have the courage in saying, I'm going to do it for the better. And some people, like you said, they find excuses. Oh, no, but I can't. I wish I could. I have kids. I have a mortgage. What? This is all It gets harder though. Like I can tell on my own as well. Like I lived in many countries. I've moved a lot, and it becomes harder and harder. When I was 20, it was like this, pack and go. Now that I'm 50, still easy, but I can feel there's been effort.
Wait, how old are you now?
Almost 50.
Get the out of here. You're not 50. Look at you. What are you talking? Get the out of here. You look amazing for 50.
Thanks. Yeah, I was born in the 70s, man. I'm a 70 kid.
Wow.
It's all the travel, all the love. It makes me young, and the Bitcoin.
Yeah, there you
Of
go.
course. Okay, so ETF approved for Ethereum, possibly start trading in July. How do you feel about it, man? Because I was not expecting that to happen, to be honest.
I lost $1,000 on that bet on Clubhouse. I didn't think it was coming this year, but obviously it came. And I think that the SEC has Gary Gensler's done, right? Gary Gensler's cooked at this point, and the reason why he's cooked is he has basically proven the whole argument that this was all political, right? None of this was actually real. This was all political. Why? Because Ethereum was failing the Howey test until someone from the Biden organization called them, the Biden administration rather called them and said, "We better get this through, otherwise we're going to lose. We're going to lose this damn election. We've got no hope in hell." And suddenly, Ethereum was approved. Right? Even the Bloomberg guys were very, very shocked. They went from a 25% chance of getting approved this year to a 75% chance of getting approved overnight. Do I think it should have happened? No, but it's happened, right? So at this point, you deal with it. I think it's going to take away from Bitcoin's allocations. I think that the thing that people really don't pay, and Bitcoiners don't want to hear this, but I think this is, very, very important to say. I think that the traditional asset investors that everyone's talking about believe in one thing, and that's diversification, right? So when they see that they can just get an Ethereum ETF as well as getting a Bitcoin ETF, there is a chance that you're going to see 25% of the capital that was due for Bitcoin to go into the Ethereum fund. And that just is what it is. It is going to hamper and hamper down the effects of institutional capital, unless, of course, more capital is printed and that's just immediately funneled into Bitcoin. I think we're going to have a phenomenal bull market, but to say that the ETH ETF is going to have no impact is stupid.
I would have gambled like you, by the way. I was not expecting it, like no chance. Like it was like maybe later on down the line. I mean, it took so long for the Bitcoin ETF to be approved, and Bitcoin has no CEO, has no corporation. Whether Ethereum has all those things that I was not seeing that coming myself as well. And I agree with you, not expecting a move on the price. Specifically, you might have some individuals that are saying, "Oh, if you missed Bitcoin, you can now get Ethereum," right? That kind of mindset where one asset trades for $60,000, the other trades for $3,000. And many people think like this. They go, oh, whoa, if Ethereum gets to where Bitcoin is, which is not going to happen, in my opinion, so they might FOMO into the fact that it's cheaper. I don't know. But we will see also, I believe, a capital inflow in the asset. Are you exposed into any Ethereum?
No, I don't have any Ethereum holdings like directly on Ethereum. The only Ethereum exposure I have is the Bitcoin miner Bit Digital BTBT that I own a little bit of. They mine and stake Ethereum as well, but that's just part of my diversified mining portfolio.
I think the Ethereum ETF was approved. I think it's because of BlackRock.
Yeah, look, BlackRock is one of the most powerful financial institutions, if not the most powerful financial institution in the entire world. And if you think any leader around the world starts talking about a particular asset that they knew nothing about, or even worse, were negative on 4 years ago, and now they come out as the bastion and savior of this product, and you think that they did that all by themselves without a little bit of handling, I think you're playing this on baby levels.
Do you see many other ETF coming through, Solana or?
At this point, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. It certainly sounds like if you are a coiner, that you need to get into the Bitcoin group chat and start telling everyone to file for ETFs right now while Gary Gensler is in power, because it looks like Gary has been fully bent over at this point, and whatever coin you've got, you're going to get an ETF for, considering that's what they've done with the Howey test with Ethereum. So right now is your chance, boys. All coiners, you better get together, get in the group chat, and start filing ETFs, because right now is your chance to get one.
What's your strategy going into this bull market? Do you have a cash out strategy, or you're going to ride it for 10 years, 20 years plus? What's your mindset here?
Yeah, I have no desire or willingness or plan or thought about selling any of my Bitcoin. To generate liquidity, I always have a portion of my portfolio that's in mining stocks or whatever else that's riding the ancillary of the Bitcoin chain, the train. And so, that will get cashed out and I'll generate liquidity like that. And that portion of the portfolio will stay in cash until it's time to allocate at the next junction. But, you know, I'm aggressively going towards the idea that the best portfolio is Bitcoin plus cash, right? A lot of people think that they're diversifying by getting into Bitcoin and the S&P 500. That's not a diversification, because now that, money printing is so blatant, all assets are risk on assets, which means that if you're in the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, or Bitcoin, you're buying the same asset. It's a risk on asset. It's just the degrees to reflexivity of the risk that you're buying, right? And so if I was an older person and I was looking for less risk in my portfolio, I think a portfolio of some allocation of Bitcoin and the rest in just cash is probably going to be better than trying to diversify into the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, and all this other stuff. So, yeah, I'll basically go Bitcoin and then cash for a while, and then whenever that opportunity shows itself, I'll take that cash and buy some more Bitcoin with it.
Yeah, I love it. Same page. I'd rather have cash and, of course, Bitcoin. Obviously, more Bitcoin than cash, but you need some cash position, of course, to leave.
First,
But I
yeah,
don't have any stable coins. And some people look at me as if I'm crazy, but I don't actually trust USDT. I don't
yeah.
trust them. No chance.
Stable coins are a bridge, and the way that currency should be used is you take your money, you convert it into currency, and then you affect that currency in the economy. And then anything you have left over, it goes back into money, right? So Bitcoin is money. And if I want to use it, like let's say I go somewhere and I want to buy a car and they only accept USDT, right? At that point, I'm going to take some money, right? Some Bitcoin, right? Convert it into USDC or USDT, send it to the person, and that's it, done, right? So it's really, I'm using it as a rail. And all of this should become a lot easier with Bitcoin as time goes on, because you should be able to build some form of USD stablecoin on top of Bitcoin, right? I'm not the type of person that's going to sit here and tell you I think Bitcoin is the final form. I think there's going to be layers 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. And I think the winning position for Bitcoin is when people are using Bitcoin without knowing they're using Bitcoin.
100% with you. I completely agree. I think it's just a protocol where people are going to build on top, exactly like the internet. We have FTP, we have IRC, we have HTTP, and people build things on top of it. So it's just early. So now we only see this store of value, which is there, but we will see layers, I agree, 2 and 3 and 4. And 99% of everything I have is in Bitcoin. And when I need to do something with it, I'll take some temporary into USDT and exchange it so that I can do whatever I have to do. Many people in my network, for example, have a huge chunk of their wealth into stablecoin. I don't do that. I don't see the value. I'd rather have cash, dirham or dollars, as opposed to USDT. But I use them, like you said, super well. Transaction in between those two stages, I think that's the best. So many people out there nowadays, they want to kind of try and catch the top and catch the bottom. And the reality is no one is going to be able to do it, because we don't know where the top is. We don't know where the bottom is. I don't think it's a good strategy. No financial advice. That's not what I'm doing, because this is how you getting wrecked. Because I remember the previous cycle, $3,000 was the bottom. People were expecting $1,000. And I have so many friends. There is a line from here to Italy, from Dubai to Milan, of people saying, I'm going to wait $1,000 because it's going to go down there. And if you have a number so rigid in your mind, guess what? It didn't happen. They didn't buy any. and they got no exposure to the asset because they have a short
Yep.
time frame. Whether you and me, we think in years, like whatever I have now, I don't care about 50,000, 60,000, 80,000. I'm not even bothered. I'm thinking about 20 years, 15 years ahead of me. So if we quote crash to 50, look how much I give about. I don't care. I buy
Yep.
consistently on a monthly basis, my DCA strategy. And when I need money, because at some point I might want to buy something, I'll take some of my Bitcoin and just sell them, because Bitcoin is money. Like you said, we think in a different way. So I encourage whoever is listening, whoever is watching, is stop measuring Bitcoin in dollars, specifically with a shorter time frame. What happens if we go down to $40,000? I'm going to buy Bitcoin. My strategy is simple. I buy recurrently on a monthly basis. I don't care about the price. And in 20 years, I'll draw some lines.
Well, people are going to start seeing that ability to draw cash flow on Bitcoin very, very soon, right? When you've got options that are due to come out on Bitcoin ETFs, so people don't understand how that works, right? So it's like, let's say you have $1 million in Bitcoin ETFs, right? You'll be able to sell an option called a covered call to generate your $10,000 a month worth of income. And, let's say in the next 4 years, that million goes to 8 million. Right now, you can go further out on the risk curve to actually sell, or further in rather. It would be a lot safer. You can go further out of the money to sell your covered call in order to generate the same $10,000. And every single 4 years, the likelihood of you getting called out just goes down and down and down. Right. So all of this is going to start happening. So everyone right now, people are selling their Bitcoin. Pretty soon, you're not going to have a reason to sell any Bitcoin because you'll be able to generate any liquidity you want. And that's when the engines really get going, right? Because that's what happened with real estate, right? Real estate only started doing what it's doing because people can hold it, generate a cash flow, and generate liquidity when they want to. And that's what's about to happen with Bitcoin in the next few years. It's not going to take long because the rails are already there. We've been doing it with real estate. We've been doing it with stocks. We've been doing it with everything. And so we just got to plug Bitcoin into that machine. Yes, it's not happening instantly, just like seems to be every crypto and Bitcoin nerd that's never done anything else in their life thinks it should happen. It's never going to be instant, but it's going to take 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years for that to happen. But once that happens, you've got every incentive to never sell Bitcoin ever again.
I don't think buying Bitcoin at 40,000 and selling it at 80,000 is a good strategy, financial advice, because I think this thing, in retrospective, I've been here 11 years, and the only thing I can say to myself every single cycle is, I wish I would have bought more. Yep. That's it. A $60,000 Bitcoin being boring. 4 years ago, people were popping champagne, celebrating life at the finest, right? Buying a bunch of different stuff, Ferraris, Lamborghini, yacht, whatever you name it. And now, 4 years later, not even, $60,000 is boring. So
yeah, it is wild to see human psychology adjust to different experiences. We've broken an all-time high before the halving, and people are bored by that. Right? It's just
I know, man.
It's remarkable to see how f***ed up human beings can be if you just give them too much dopamine.
Madness. There is no other asset I've seen so far that gives you this much returns, and yet people are impatient. They want things now. That's why this show with the meme coins is coming through, because it's a lottery, right? People buy into those whatever tokens that have no value just to hope they will win the lottery. But the reality is no one is going to win the lottery. They're going to get wrecked, because that's how the system works.
This is a kind of a funny take, but the meme coins, right? Obviously, I'm against coins, right? British HODL, right? But the meme coins are my favorite coins. I don't know if I've said that in public before, but the meme coins are my favorite coins. Why? It's telling you what it is on the tin, right? It's not being Ethereum and telling you we are the oil of the digital economy and all this other bullshit. This is a meme, right? This is dog in your coin or whatever it is. It's like, this is a meme coin. That's what it is. We're here to scam a bunch of people, and hopefully some of us are going to make some money out of it. I think that's pure capitalism at its finest, right? It's like, this is a meme coin. Do with it what you will. And people are like, okay, let me go and take my net worth and dump it into this meme coin. It's like, all right, cool. I'm down for that.
That's a good point, actually, because you know what it is. It's like going to the casino and spinning on the roulette for $50, right? Like you know exactly that your chance of winning are small, but you can.
Right.
But the funny thing is, what we see, I think, is probably have to do with the media, whatever. But what the media talks about is people that make millions of dollars over a coin overnight. But that's not reality. Reality is people are going to lose everything.
Craziest part, my friend, is that they don't care,
Yeah.
right? Most people don't give a because their life is so bad. They've been pummeled into the ground by the fiat system. They can't afford to have any children. They can't afford to live the life that they want. So gambling on a coin becomes worthwhile when you can't afford your own house. All of this stuff becomes worthwhile because the rest of life is so. You gotta save up all your entire working hours, right? You gotta work for 3 years to save up for one holiday in Marbella or wherever the you guys go. And then you gotta come back and get back to work to save up for the next one in 3 years. And this whole time you can never save up for a house. Like, and the only way you get a house if you're a young person is if your parents are smart enough to buy an asset, you know, 30, 40 years ago that they can now take debt on in order to give you that money to buy the house. So why not just go and gamble on some meme coins? That's the life that people live. I like it. I actually think it's honest. I genuinely think meme coins are honest. They're called meme coins. Now, if you're the type of person that's going to take their life savings and put it into something called a meme coin, you firstly know you're gambling, right? You know it's a meme because it's the name of the thing. It's a meme coin. Go for it. Have a good time. I don't want to be like that, and I don't want to, spend time with people that do that. But at the same time, I know people who have made a lot of money trading meme coins that now are Bitcoiners, and people in Bitcoin don't like talking about that, but that's happened.
So
Capitalism is capitalism at the end of the day.
everything is going to take you to Bitcoin, I believe. So it doesn't matter what kind of road you take. Some are more expressed than other, but I agree. I think it's a great marketing tool, and it's a fun thing to do as long as you know, like you said, as long as you know that you are investing into some sort of a questionable asset. Well, hey,
Be honest. Just don't do the Ethereum thing. Don't do the Cardano thing. Don't do the Monero thing. Be honest, right? It's a meme coin. Be honest about it. I just don't like it when people lie. Meme coins don't lie. They tell you on the tin, this is a meme coin. A lot of people like to divorce the idea of once they become a Bitcoiner, I don't need to pay attention to the rest of the world. And yeah, to a certain extent, you don't if your net worth is, low seven figures. But once you get to a certain point where you have assets around the world, or have a vision of having assets around the world, you need to start paying attention, right? Because depending on where you want to live, depending on how you want to protect your life, depending on how you want to, protect your assets, you need to know what's going on in the world. And over the next 6 months, we have U.S. elections, U.K. elections, European blowout in terms of the left-leaning policies of the EU that have been plaguing Europe for the last 20 years. And all of this could change within the next 6 months. So we've got exciting things happening. We've got Bitcoin getting ready and revved up. It's going to break the previous all-time high, inflation adjusted, and then the rocket ship starts. So a lot of interesting things happening in the next 6 months. I told everyone on Twitter I was going to take a month-long vacation because nothing was going to happen. Absolutely will happen during that time period. So you got to enjoy life as well while you're doing this. But right now is the time to get focused. Right now is the time to start paying attention, start subscribing to your favorite YouTubers again, and start paying attention to what's going on because things are going to change very, very, very quickly starting now for the next, I would say, 1 year.
I couldn't have said any better. Stay humble and stack sats. And by the way, your links are going to be in the description down below, even though everyone already knows you and already subscribed. But if there is that one person who doesn't know, go and subscribe. And man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Always great having you on the show.
I appreciate it. You're doing a great job. I hope you keep it up, and I hope more people subscribe to your channel as well. And let's keep building.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Cheers.